in our world today, one of the most coveted things is focus, and everything in our life is vying for our attention. And, one of the ways that we've looked at that internally is even how we use Slack or email or whatever, or even walking around the office into somebody's office can be a distraction. And there's tons of studies and smart people, who have wrote about what that does to your work and your productivity, but also how it impacts your nervous system. And for me, it might be even a couple of years ago now, I've turned off I don't do notifications. I don't have Slack on my phone. And so, but I'm incredibly responsive. And it's just because I'm intentional about that. I control when I do certain things versus letting those notifications run me. And so, talking to our team and say, you might need to turn off all your notifications because could be hundreds a day. Or I think, a conversation I had with somebody yesterday, it was, hey, they were just telling me about, I work and then I go home and eat dinner and then I sit down and work a few hours. Like, well, you need to stop doing that because that's not sustainable. Sustainable and sustainable margin is a big focus we have coming into next year. And sustainable is something that says we can continue to do this for a long period of time. At Summit, we're in this for the long haul. We're continuing to serve for a long time, not a short period of time. And things that we think are going to be short term can quickly turn into months and months or years and years of working a lot or extra or doing this one extra step. And so we're looking at the things and saying, what isn't sustainable? And working every evening isn't sustainable for a life. I don't think anyone wants to do that for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And so we need to say, okay, what do we need to change to be able to change that and give people freedom really to say, is this actually important right now? There's a lot of things that are urgent. There's less things that are important. And so helping define those is important. Something I've had to do and change and just learning that, as for me, when I changed from Nick and I leading the organization, we kind of stepped into that leadership in 2018, 2019, a couple of years even before we had an ownership change. And so for us, that change was kind of signing a piece of paper. Our leadership positions were still the same. But from the external perception, it was a very big difference from our employees. And so anytime I asked for something, it carried a weight that people thought they had to do it right now. And so I had to, and it took me a while to understand and recognize that, but I had to change the way I ask for things to say, hey, this isn't urgent, or don't let this disrupt your day, or ask, when I can get things, because if everything's urgent and important, then nothing's urgent and important. And so we've really had to start to build into our team, what are the proactive rhythms that we can accomplish what we want to do, serve how we want to serve, provide the experience we want to provide, and have margin. And so that's going back to what I was talking about earlier of the multiplication. Prioritizing is just borrowing time from the future. All we're doing is shifting the deck. Becoming efficient, again, it doesn't actually buy you more time. It just allows you to make more widgets or do more things. And so finding ways to multiply our time by automation. We're in this amazing realm right now of artificial intelligence, and we've already used so many things that have helped us use artificial intelligence to either summarize our meetings or do those things, or work on financial calculations and data for us. We're currently working on a project right now that it's handling all our shipping and tracking information. And so what are the things that we can do to free us up margin? Not even always so we can do more work, so you can go home and rest and go home and hang out with the family.
I've always felt that people maybe don't realize the control that they have over themselves, like specifically like people treat you the way you let them treat you.
Nobody else can be in charge of your life and your rhythm, right? Or even your development. You have to take ownership of that, right? You have to create when you give away power, or when you make excuses, you give away power, right? And so taking ownership of what do you want your life to look like, what do you want your day to look like, and then having a conversation doesn't mean you're going to get everything you want. But an employee coming to say, hey, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm looking like. And we start all the way back in our job descriptions and our things and lay out our expectations for a level of work and job's performance. And so if there's something that comes out of alignment of, hey, I have to work 80 hours a week to do my job, well, then let's talk about it, right? That's not the expectation, even if that's a reality we didn't understand. And so healthy boundaries are incredibly important. Boundaries actually create freedom. When there's no boundaries, when your whole day is trying to help everyone else do something, it can look good for a minute, but it's not sustainable. We talk about being a team player. We talk about being generous with our time. We talk about helping each other. We talk about being one team. We have an incredible culture in this, but it can be overdone to a level, again, that's not sustainable. If I'm trying to help everybody else play their position on the field and I sacrifice my own position, what I'm doing, I'm actually being the opposite of a team player, right? When you think about a football team, if the quarterback was trying to block people on the line, it usually doesn't go well. He needs to be the best quarterback he can and then encourage those around him. And so working with our team to create boundaries that says just because somebody asks you to help with something, you have to be honest with them about, do I have the margin in the day to first get what's the priority? And then if I can help them as well, that's a win. But if at times this level of self-sacrifice of, I'm just going to do all my job after midnight tonight and I'm going to help everybody else get what they need today, that's not sustainable. It looks great for a minute. It's not good long term.
I would only assume there's a lot of damage done that we don't hear about around the office, even that you've seen this and we've had to just work to clean stuff up just because inevitably people are just going to work because it's fun and stuff. But what's like the shadow side of that you've seen?
Oh, there's this thing called, that people talk a lot about a work-life balance, and it's a very, very big definition. But a different way that I think I've described it is, are you living in integrity with your own value system? And somebody who's not doing that, at times when I'm not doing that, it's not a very enjoyable life. It's a pretty challenging thing. You don't show up well, and you're not liking what you're doing. And so, if you've got to first define it, you've got to say, man, what do I value? What do I want to be doing? How do I want to be spending my time? And it's likely not working 80 hours a week, even 60 hours a week, long term, right? We're going to have sprints, for sure, but it has to say a sprint. And so yeah, we've lost a lot of employees. Again, we can't take full responsibility for that, but we definitely play a part, and we want to partner with our team to say, cool, how do we set up a thriving, how do we make you thrive in your role in serving people, but also in your life and in your work? And we believe that's possible. It's not easy though. It has to be an ongoing conversation. Seasons change, things change. And so we're willing to always lean in on that, but we continue to learn with every single person that's on our team of, man, what's that mean for you, and how do we lead and partner together to create that?
I've seen several guys be like, they're not traveling right now. We made them stuff. We put them on the bench from traveling because they've just been gone too much.
Exactly. And I think what you said there is important. They didn't put themselves on the bench. We put them on the bench. Say, hey, you don't get to travel right now. We want you to stay home. You need to take some time off. You need to hang out with your family. We got you covered right now. And it feels real weird at the moment, and it's scary because we don't know how it's going to go. But it works, and we're willing to explore those things when different people need it.
If somebody's like, maybe either they feel like they're working too much or they see somebody that's working too much, how would you say to handle those situations?
Effort and effectiveness don't always go hand in hand. I think one of the first things to look at and say, are the efforts I'm putting into something actually effective? Because if we're working so much just to produce the acceptable result, you have to say, is there a better way? Is there something I'm missing? Am I doing something I shouldn't be doing? Do I need to learn something new? And so getting curious is the first step. Saying, okay, I don't like, this doesn't seem right. This doesn't feel right. As an example, a few years ago in our finance team, one of the monthly tasks we had to do was taking 3 days a week every 2 weeks. And it's like, this doesn't feel right. This shouldn't take this long. And it shouldn't. It didn't. So we got it to 30 seconds, 3 days to 30 seconds. Pretty good trade-off. But we have to get curious first.
Something that was taking 3 days for somebody, you were able to get it down to 30 seconds.
Yeah. It's just, again, that's where the curiosity, but we have to invite it in, because we're not always going to see the solution ourselves. And that's okay, right? When we talked about working genius earlier, if you're not an inventor, you're probably not going to think there's even a solution. But if you can identify something of, hey, this seems weird, or this looks funny, or this takes a ton of effort to do. I've almost see it every week of somebody identifying something now, of creating a culture where that we can have that feedback of, hey, is this the best way to do this? Maybe it is. Maybe it just sucks. But maybe it's not. But we can't ever explore anything if there's not a spirit of curiosity around it. But then it's conversations with managers and leaders too in the organization. It starts there, just from an open dialogue lesson, right? If anyone comes in and starts wanting to blame everything, again, that's taking the stance of a victim of everything else is causing me to have this. And that's just, it's hard to get anywhere positive when that's the starting stance. And so, stepping into a conversation says, hey, I'm feeling weird about this, or I'm feeling angry or frustrated about why this is so hard, or why I continue to have to work so long to do this. What do you see? It could be a misaligned expectation, or there's a lot of ways we can help, but just opening the dialogue with curiosity is really powerful.